So if we climb in here, we come right here and we have the button for going up and down on the top. Put my foot on the brake, press the button. The soft top rises. When it gets to about here, it's gonna slam a little bit, so I'm gonna just set it down. I usually just catch the top. And two little latches on the side, one here, one right above me. Put the windows up. Window controls are here, they're in the middle to make it easy. And that's about it. Alright, so now that we're driving, got the air conditioning running a little bit, and just got it on low. You can really hear the pump going when the car's at a standstill. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. But one thing to know about this car is the transmission and how hard the transmission likes to shift. Because when you're going from gear to gear, you notice that it's just like a very, very particular place that the transmission wants to go in. Also, another thing to know, if you go into 5th gear, put the clutch in and go to 5th, like if you notice, I actually have to go up, like to the side and up in order to get it into 5th. Which is kind of weird because in a normal car you can kind of just go to 5th, but in this car you have to go right and up. So that's a little weird thing that this car has. Obviously just put it back and forth, downshift, and take a left right here. Another thing to know about this car, something it does exceptionally well, is handling. The car handles very, very well. I can place it wherever I want on the road and it will just simply be there. I can be going at a very high speed and actually just put the car exactly where I want it to go, as I was only going like 25 and I could be going like 45 in this car and it just goes where I want it to go. Handling is amazing. One thing that these cars do have an issue with occasionally is the clutch. The clutch has a super low grab point, so you have to put it down all the way and then it grabs at the very end, which is kind of weird, but you know, it's alright. These clutches tend to have a little bit of issue, like the slave cylinder. The clutches don't tend to go bad. The clutch has a pretty good feel, pretty heavy feel to it. It's just that it has that low grab point, which you do get used to. So, the issue comes with the drive line or the clutch line. It likes to bubble a little bit. You do some slave cylinder work and stuff like that, and it usually fixes it. I got a new slave cylinder in this car and everything's working very nicely. It has 80,000 miles and it's still on its original clutch and it's not slipping at all. But other than that, this car, it gets going really quick. It shifts, you know, very nicely. You just have to be aware that the car can be a little temperamental when shifting. You do get used to it, but once you step into this car after a couple months, like when you go park it for the winter, it does feel a little bit odd at the beginning. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a juice right now. I'm gonna probably bring it up to about 40 miles per hour, and if you notice, bring it down here. So when you do put it into first, you kind of do have to like persuade it to go sometimes. Sometimes it really doesn't want to go. My spring in the lever is actually worn out, so it doesn't like to come back to neutral, but that's something I'm going to get fixed very soon. It's a 20-year-old car, it's going to have some issues. So I'm just going to give it a light acceleration right here. So kind of just lightly giving it some juice. Coming around this corner. It's a really small car and it has an inline 6 in it, a 3.2 inline 6, which is a massive engine for such a small car. It gets going. I have absolutely no complaints about the car. Obviously, it's not something I'm going to take to the track, something I'm just going to enjoy and drive. So, it's got enough power for that and more. Alright, so I just dropped the top. You guys can hear a little bit more of that inline 6. Just getting a little bit of sound. You know, it just starts to get a little windy, but giving a little juice. Not sure how much you can hear, but the car likes to go. The car just wants to go. And It's an extremely fun car to drive. It's very engaging to drive. And what I can say is this car without the manual transmission would definitely lose a very, very big part of it. I'm just going to put the windows up right here so you can hear me a little bit better. Window controls are obviously here and not in the middle, but something take note of, without a manual transmission, honestly, I don't think I would have bought this car, just because it makes the car what it is. It makes the car 10 times better to drive. It's super engaging. It's a very good manual transmission, but it does have its features and its little like issues that make it interesting to drive. But the car doesn't like to get its rear end out very much, which is something I noticed about it. It has massive tires for such a small car, and the car sits fairly wide, but it doesn't like to kick out as much as a normal car would, just simply because the tires, I believe it has 275s in the rear or something like that, and it just doesn't kick out whatsoever. Alright, so here's a little passenger perspective for you. I'll try to get maybe a GoPro set up or something so that you can get a driver's perspective. One thing to notice is this car is very tight. The cabin is very, very small. For someone who's over, I want to say 6'2", 6'3", it'd be very, very hard for them to fit into this car with the top up. With the top down, you can probably manage the car. The seats don't lean very far back. The seats are very restricting. If you're a heavier person, you're gonna have a little bit of issues with these seats. But if you're an average size person, you know, 5'10", 5'11", I'm 6 foot and I fit in this car perfectly. So it's a smaller car, but it's definitely really easy to drive. Once you get if you know how to drive manual, and after like a week or so, you get used to the car a little bit. It's a very easy car to drive. It's a very simple car to drive. Sometimes the car doesn't want to work with you, but you know, it's a 2000 BMW product. It's fantastic. There's no complicated technologies. There's none of that. There's no clutch assistance. You can turn traction control off from a press of one button, and you have no traction control. It's just you in the car, and that's something I very much like about this car. That it's just the last of that generation. The Z4 has all these new technologies, all this new everything, while this car basically just has itself. It's just what it is, and for that reason, it's such an enjoyable driving experience. And for $15,000 right now, you can pick up a very, very good example of one. These engines aren't going to go anywhere. They're very solid inline sixes. We've seen the M3s go to crazy mileage on them, and they have absolutely no issue. You know, some have rebuilds and stuff, but it's a very perfect car to drive, very perfect car to own. If we look at the coupes, they're up in the 40s right now. So if I come back inside and I put the key in, of course we have heated seats. We have like all the climate control here. The top, this is traction control, and then this is heated seats for the passenger. But if I press the air conditioning, if you can just really hear the car working, which is something you notice. You can hear that, and that's just the car air conditioner unit working. And if I come here, the car currently has Pilot Sport Cup tires on it, and they are 245s, if you can see that right there. So it's got very, very fat tires in the back. If you compare them to the car, you can kick it sideways for sure, but not something that it really wants to do very easily. But it gets there. It has enough power to lose traction for sure. Kind of off topic, we do have the King Ranch here, and I will be dropping a video on Sunday. If you're watching this the day it goes up, which today is Friday, so in 2 days I'll drop a full review and everything on the truck. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe, like the video. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in 2 days.